Hi, I'm Sean Moore. I've wanted to do this podcast forever. And because I'm a perfectionist, I never let it get out there. But now I'm like, you know what? 80% is good enough. So here we go. Because this is not for me. It's not about me. It's about the content that I'm getting out there for you. And like I said, I've been working on this for years. So I actually have written down all of my thoughts and feelings about what this podcast is about. And for this first episode, while in the future we'll have guests on, it'll be natural and free flowing. For this first episode, I actually wanted to read my thoughts and feelings to make sure that everything came out how I wanted it to. So I hope you'll forgive me that I'm be reading off my computer, but I hope you'll get the sentiment, and I look forward and so stoked about doing this podcast with you. First of all, I'm stoked to be here, grateful to be here. Glory goes to God. He's the whole reason I'm here. It's him that's put it in me to get this content out there, and I've been reluctant to do so. But it's really for him and for you to freely benefit from. So I'm grateful to him for giving me that opportunity. Second, I've spent my career as a trusted leadership advisor, an executive coach, and a human performance expert. I've worked with the Dallas Cowboys, Major League Baseball, Fortune 100 companies, the military, top generals, and some of the world's most elite executives. I've dedicated my career to helping high performers reach their potential, to become stronger, make better decisions, be more resilient, and more effective leaders. And I've learned 3 powerful lessons during this time. First, there's a lot more to life than work. And more often than not, our life outside of work is what we actually value most. Second, for any type of work, any type of leadership or performance, whether as an executive, a professional athlete, a mom of 3 kids, a father, a brother, an entrepreneur, a regular employee, a student, or any other human on earth trying to live life, performance in anything must include an awareness of the bilateral relationship between our psychology and our physiology. We call it body cognition. Your ability to think, make decisions, be precise, be in a healthy relationship, do anything in life is related to how well you steward your body and your mind and recognize how they interplay together. Thankfully, the world of sport has actually paved the way for us to understand the critical link between our minds and our bodies in order to perform at our best. Just think of any professional athlete, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, any Olympian, any pro performer of any kind, and recognize the emphasis that they place on physical and mental fitness. And now neuroscience and experts like Dr. Huberman and the Huberman Lab have democratized this once exclusive knowledge and sometimes difficult to understand science, and have made it available and digestible for all of us who are willing to listen and to apply it to our lives. And that's what this podcast is about. Taking the pillars of mental and physical health and performance and providing you with science-backed protocols that you can use to live your best life in whatever it is you perform on a daily basis. It doesn't matter if you're a professional basketball player, a CEO, a military special operator, a mom with 3 kids, or a 25-year-old single person trying to find the right person and to date and marry in life. These skills and protocols apply to you. And dare I say, if you use them, they will change your life. I subscribe to Nike's philosophy. Nike, perhaps the most recognizable athletic performance organization in the world, has a mission statement that says that their goal is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And then they go on to say, if you have a body, you're an athlete. So that's all of us. We're all athletes. And my goal is similar to Nike's, to help you live an inspired and an inspiring life, to feel truly alive, full of vitality and good health on a daily basis. One of the names that I've thought of for this company is Enthos. And the root of enthos is entheos, which means inspired or possessed by a god or the god within. It's what the Greeks believed was the highest state of happiness one could achieve, what they would feel in the eternities. And our goal here is to get you to this state of happiness now, right now, no matter who you are, where you are, or what you do. If you want to feel and be your best, it's time to start thinking and treating yourself and taking care of yourself just like an athlete does, through a proactive, preventative, and optimized approach to health. Now more than ever, we have the tools and resources at our fingertips to be optimized athletes in our lives. We don't have to feel crappy, mentally and physically exhausted, have no energy, or wait until we're sick to finally take care of ourselves. We can take care of ourselves so we feel amazing now. Not only can we help prevent injury or illness from ever happening, We can live in an optimized, healthy state today and every day. So you can take your health and happiness into your own hands instead of a doctor who doesn't know you and doesn't actually know what's best for you. You can use your own data, your own experience, and live the most rich, fulfilling, and rewarding life right now. This means more quality time with your family, more enjoyment of the activities you love, more recreation and the ability to do the things you love, more joy in every day. Just so you know what it feels like to be an athlete in flow, like you would see in any Nike commercial. My goal is to give you everything you need to be physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually in flow now in your own life. The last thing, the third most important thing that I've learned in my career is that health, happiness, flow, these aren't destinations or outcomes. It's a lifestyle. It's falling in love with the process. It's a state of mind, a state of being. It's our ability to be our happiest today and in the future. Our health, bio, psycho, social, and spiritually speaking, is everything. So buckle up, get ready to dive deep, learn how you can live your happiest, healthiest life for you and the ones you love. Here are just some ideas of some of the topics we're going to cover during this podcast. First, how exercise affects mental health. Did you know that exercise is actually 1.5 times more effective than antidepressants and therapy for treating depression, and that it reduces the risk of brain disease by up to 50%? That's just one example. We also study the science of sleep, how sleep affects everything you do, your cognition, your emotional regulation, resilience, decision-making, essentially everything that you do and how you feel. We'll talk about the science of hydration, relationships, burnout, social health and power of community, hormone health, mobility, muscle building for longevity, recovery, nutrition, the gut microbiome, values-based health, men's and women's health, sexual health, spiritual health, and the list goes on. Speaking of spiritual health, it's kind of funny, actually. When I left the corporate world and I decided to venture on my own, what I wanted to be was a preacher, teaching the gospel wherever I possibly could. Because when I sat back and thought about the times I've been the happiest in my life, when I've been the most in my element, the most aligned with what I feel he wants for me, it's always been when I've been teaching his gospel. Ironically enough, it was God who pointed me a different direction than going and being a preacher. And I wondered why, God, when all I want to do is go teach your word and teach your love, why wouldn't you want that? But he kept telling me, exercise. The truth is, I can't remember another time in my life where I felt more consistently, gently, and urgently pushed towards something from God. And I couldn't deny it. So I surrendered and I decided to just keep following it wherever it led me, not knowing exactly where I would end up. And over the last few years, this has been my complete focus. And these actually have been some of the happiest years of my life. Some of you know me and may have noticed a physical difference over the years. I've gotten a lot stronger. I feel amazing. But I also hope that you've noticed the mental and spiritual difference as well. Through this experience, I think I've discovered why God kept so adamantly pushing me in this direction of exercise. And I've realized that this is just as much preaching the gospel as when I was walking the streets of Bolivia as a missionary. It's about as deep in God's work as one can get. Do you remember God's greatest commandments? To love God with all our heart, all our soul, with all our mind, and the second, to love our neighbor as ourselves. Well, how can we love God with all our heart if our heart and lungs can't make it to the end of the block? How can we love God with all our minds when our mental health is off the rails? How can we love God with all our soul if we don't know who we are? And how can we love our neighbor if we don't have the physical, mental, and spiritual capacity to do so? Optimizing our physical, mental, social, and spiritual abilities means we can give our whole heart to God and more of it. The more we take care of our health, the more we fully are able to do what God has asked of us and what he wants for us. And this is why I feel God told me to exercise. So we're here. Let's freaking go. Let's do this together for each other, for ourselves, and for God. The reality is truly being able to help and love God and others as he wants us to be able to live whatever mission you have in this life. It requires a level of physicality that I don't think we associate enough with this commandment. And as with anything God asks of us, when we follow and put in the work, he will give you so much more in return. For you, for your life, for everyone, and everything you love. Have you heard of the two most popular courses in the history of Harvard and Yale? They're on happiness. Happiness courses at the most prestigious institutions, one that have the lines and wait lists miles long because people are so desperately trying to find the secret to happiness. Well, I actually spoke to Tal Ben-Shahar, the professor who taught those two courses at Harvard. And he's the one who actually encouraged me to go this direction, because this, my friends, is the recipe for happiness. And this is what God wants for you. He wants you to take care of yourself physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, spiritually, because by doing so, you can do more for Him, more for yourself, and more for others. And you will be infinitely happier as a result. Remember that God's purpose for you in this life is to have joy. Well, that's what this is. And that's why this is a movement. It's not your average health podcast, your nutrition podcast, or workout podcast. We are giving you science-backed tools, resources, and outlines with the purpose for you to have more joy in your life through health. For you to be able to give more to the things you love and ultimately discover the happiness that you so desperately seek, that we all so desperately seek. Even if you think that you feel great now, the reality is you probably don't realize how good you can actually feel. Also, if you're sitting there thinking, hey, this sounds amazing, but I just don't have time to do it. Listen to what Jeffrey R. Holland said in his remarks during what was called the World's Principled Leadership Series, put on by the Covey Leadership Institute. When asked the question, how do I do it all when there's always more demand on my time than the clock provides? His response was enlightening. He stated that when he was in the most demanding time of his life, when he had no money, 2 little kids, a wife, and was working while also doing a full-time PhD program and held a major position in his church, he said, what I learned is that before any of this, I had to take care of my own physical and spiritual health. I had to have something in the tank. So as selfish as it might sound, I decided it wasn't selfish to make sure I did at least a few basic things that let me be a spouse and be a better father, that I would do better in school. And that meant eat right, get exercise, and be spiritually in tune. So a little personal attention in the midst of all the other external demands for me has been the key for the nearly 50 years since then. This is how you're able to do the things that you love and that you feel are so important. This is the only way you can give your family, your career, your God, what they really need. So prioritize this. And as Holland said, even if that means that other things have to wait. We do this so that we can give more to whatever it is we want most in life. And in the process, we become the happiest, most aligned, and spiritually in tune versions of ourselves we can possibly be. More creative, more effective, more open to His guidance, and more able to do the work He's called you to do. And now for the last thing. As much as this whole thing is about high performance and elite performance, it's just as much about love and healing. As you take care of yourself in the way we prescribe, you will find yourself healing so much of what has happened to you over the years, mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually. It's simply a beautiful and natural part of the process. Have you ever had a sliver or a splinter that you couldn't quite get to, but then found that naturally it eventually got pushed out over time? Your body is so amazing that it literally triggers an immune response that pushes the sliver out. And I firmly believe that as you follow this process, similarly, some of the unwanted, unhealthy aspects of your life, mentally, spiritually, or emotionally, will eventually work themselves out, because your body and your mind will be in such a state that it biologically and spiritually pushes out the bad, and you will be in a renewed, whole, and rejuvenated state. So again, as much of a place of performance, I hope that you find this community to be a place of refuge, a place of healing, a sanctuary of love and community, where your body, your mind, and your spirit are free from the noise of the crazy world, even if that world is inside of you, and you are fully able to recover, feel renewed, and feel whole. So if you're still with me at this point, and you're ready for ultimate health, performance, recovery, and happiness, let's freaking go. I'm grateful that I get to be here with you, and I'm excited to be on this journey with you.